now back on that beat.
Hey guys, after such a long wait, Percy's model is finally finished. This video has been over 8 months in the making. Before Walter, or Thomas, and before a lot of things, there was Percy. For a small engine like Percy, he somehow became the most difficult to work with. A custom that's been reworked from the ground up, not twice, but 3 times, probably more. I lost count. Now, I've tried to keep this video as easy to follow with chapters like I always do with all my videos, but in this rare case, the order of how things happened are going to be all over the place. So, woolly bear with me please. Get it? Yeah, you get it. Percy was the first to have a 3D printed body shell of my own design, one that I began at least. Percy's chassis uses a Hornby Packet W4 that I bought brand new from a hobby shop all the way back in December last year, originally buying it with the purpose of customizing it into an old derelict tank engine. I often go to visit it in person, as it's a special Hudswell Clark, one of 2 locos that were imported to New Zealand from England. I've always loved the little industrial engines. This original project never made it past the drawing stage, as I realised the body shell would have been too short to fit the motor inside. It's quite fascinating seeing people's different interpretations of Percy. Plenty of options that fit onto many varieties of chassis out there. Despite all the body shells out there, I knew from the beginning I wanted to make my own designs of Percy that I already drew years prior, and turn it into my own one-of-a-kind model. But first, I wanted to print out a body shell test. I don't exactly remember why. Maybe it was because I hadn't printed anything bigger than my 009 stuff at that point. I found some files of Railway Series Percy from the Sudrian Man on Thingiverse. Currently, at the time of this video, he is remaking his Percy, so go check out his stuff if you're interested. It was a good test print, but I knew this version was quite old, and Sudrian was planning on updating it anyways. Even so, I still kept it around as a paint tester. Using the reference drawings, I got to work. My Percy has 2 versions. I started modelling my version 2 being a hybrid design of the Railway Series, Models Series, and a pinch of Great Western Railway 1338 Didcot Salt. And later on, I designed version 1 being adapted from version 2, inspired by Wilbur Awdry's original model. Making Percy as a 3D model was an entirely new experience for me, making parts and learning new techniques as I went. But the biggest problem for me was to overcome the sizing to fit onto the Packet chassis. But I'll come back to that blatant issue later. Well, actually, this one wasn't a one and done at all. Unfortunately. The first printed out and it didn't fit the chassis. Second one printed out and didn't fit either. Oops. Third time lucky? No. For fourth's sake? Nah. And what did I do about it? I lost self-control and crushed it with force in my hand, and I got instant karma with receiving a big cut across my middle finger of all places. At least I knew better not to stick it up. After probably a fortnight's worth break from the incident, I gave the 3D model another look at, adjusting the chassis opening for it to finally fit on the model. I was pretty happy with how it was looking so far. only for a week after I'd already painted it, a few people commented about Percy's funnel looking too fat and not in good top shape, shall I say. But fair enough to them. Looking back at it, yeah, it definitely used to look very off. I wasn't offended at all, by the way, guys. Maybe at the time, but it was all constructive criticism. And because of all the failed prints I was pumping out like there's no tomorrow, I quickly lost interest in the project in favour of making Walter and Thomas. Now is probably a good time to clarify why you shouldn't make a body shell without getting accurate measurements from the chassis first. With measurements, you must make a mock-up chassis model, even if it's just simple blocks, to show basic proportions to build the body shell model around it. For the most obvious reasons ever, it'll save you a lot of time, headache, and countless amounts of failed prints and wasted resin. You shouldn't have to be hoping and praying every time you're printing out something like I did. I honestly don't know how many body shells I ended up printing, only for it to not work. It was that bad. Do plan ahead and keep this in mind, as I really suffered in the worst way possible. I only hope that it can be a good learning experience, like it sure was for me. Oh, and then I updated the 3D model once again for the third time now, to help sharpen the rounded corners and make the smokebox door a separate piece for the faces. But I'll explain that further soon.
It has been so hard to keep this video in organised categories. My brain is being deep fried with this video being all over the place.
Segueing flawlessly onto the faces, I originally designed them to be blue-tacked onto the front of the smokebox door, like how I had done with Skylo and Renes, and for a while, these were my Percy faces. It sounds like a smart idea on paper, but putting it into print was a whole different story. I don't know. Something about them just doesn't look right. Because of the smokebox details, the face has to fit on top of it, making it stick out way too much. Ever since trying out the new face peg into a hole method, I've adapted it for all my other models, including Percy. Now, if painting Percy, I was very indecisive with what green to choose. I went through about 6 greens until I found the one I liked the most. First 2 were too bright, the third too saturated, and the fourth and fifth too dark. For a while, I stuck to using one of the brighter greens, but I just ended up disliking it the more I looked at it. And by the time was when I had to update the fat funnel anyways, so it's kind of expected to make another redo at this point. Finally coming to my senses, I went asking other Railway Series modelers for paint recommendations. For me, the green I was wanting to achieve was a nice mid-tone green of a hint of extra yellow, like how Percy looks in the early annuals, illustrations by the GOAT, Edgar Hodges. Citadel's moot green seemed to be the closest to what I was looking for. At first, it looked wrong on the model, probably my mind playing tricks with me going insane with this overextended project. But trusting the process helped as I added all the other paint details, and it looked much better. A good outcome I can finally be happy with. It's not quite the perfect green I was looking for, to be honest, though I tend to be very picky with greens for some weird reason. It's still a really nice colour regardless. With adding weights, I used the liquid gravity, poured it into the coal bunker and a little pocket inside the smoke box, and I cut some lead strips to slot inside the sides of the tank. There's not much room for adding weights, but it does help. Like I've said with the previous Thomas video, painting the wheels is my least favourite part of any custom. But it's got to be done. I unscrewed the chassis to remove the wheels and cylinders. For some silly reason though, I did not strip down the paint, and I just painted it up in one of my earlier brighter greens and added decal lining. It obviously didn't suffice in the long term, as I had to strip down the paint anyways for the final green. I glued a strip of plastic card along the tops of the cylinders to make them slightly taller to close the gap between it and the body shell running board. I masked the front, back, top and bottom of the cylinders with blue tack before repainting. Not the best thing to use, as it can be difficult to remove everything for having sticky residue, but it did the job at least. I didn't bother with the decals this time, as I thought it looked fine without them, plain and simple. I might add them on in the future if I change my mind. I do wish putting it all back together could have been that simple, but those piston screws were an absolute nightmare. Another obstacle to stop me in my tracks. The longer piston screw for the back wheels felt like it hadn't screwed in all the way, like it was jammed. I don't know if the Hulk energy took over my body or what, but I decided to get heavy-handed and tried tightening it more by force. Bet you know exactly what happened. It snapped off and half of the screw thread was stuck inside the wheel. I'll have to be honest, I was positively defeated at that point, and I took another break on him after sending the model off to be repaired. No offense to the fixers, but they admittedly didn't do a good job on fixing Percy, and it ended up being a very long wait and not the best communication. They had to get a new pair of wheels. They gave me the original wheels as well, which was nice, but they somehow managed to fit all the piston rods the wrong way round, which would have made the rods bend if I didn't do anything about it ASAP. They also didn't use the proper piston screw designed for the model, making it a very loose fit. When test running Percy, I would find that the new screw would slowly undo itself the more I ran it until it would completely fall out. That's kind of unacceptable. At least it wasn't a complete waste of money. Thankfully, I was smart enough for once and came up with the idea to remove the piston screw-in piece from one of the new wheels, just lightly tapping it out and pressing it into the other wheel. I also bought the proper piston screw from Peter's Spares, and the problem was finally solved. Version 1 was printed out to fit. I got straight into painting and adding decals, just lining in the yellow number 6, as I wanted this version to look a little closer to Audrey's original model. Percy is well known for, so I had to make him at least one male van to start with, and for 3D models I found some files on Thingiverse from the man across the pond, Farka BLT, or for Farquhar, Fifi, Fafa, double Fs is Fafaqua, or Farka, whatever. I really like his design of the male vans, one that are designed from the SR's CCT vans, but have really good swiveling bogies and NEM pockets for couplers to boot. All his files on Thingiverse are for free. Very much recommended. All the pieces were printed out in first succession, which is a very nice change, and I airbrushed red and masked for the roof. Rather than having a black roof, as how it appears in a TV series, I wanted to make it dark grey instead, as it just looks better, in my opinion. And like some of the real-life CCT vans, I painted the front and back ends fully in black. White lettering decals were added for Sodal Mail and sealed in. And with weathering, I decided to weather both Thomas and Percy using the airbrush, and sealed them in with a matte varnish coat, as well as a satin varnish on the areas that weren't airbrushed. And with that, Percy is done. After so many months of trial and error, getting into 3D printing body shells was a real rough start, I'd have to admit. But I'm really thankful looking back that I didn't give up so easily when there were countless times I could have. Sure, I took many breaks and went insane in the membrane, but it was something that I could learn from and adapt. Because of it, I've been able to get better at not just 3D modeling and printing, but also planning ahead and knowing what to do for next time. Even looking back at the Percy models now, I still feel like I need to remake them again at some stage, knowing that I could do an even better job with the skills I have now. For now, I'm happy to keep them just as the way they are. I've had enough of the green gremlins giving me troubles, and I don't want to hold back this video any longer. From this video, you can clearly see I really like to suffer. I'm getting way too ahead of myself now. Time for as good of a running session I can offer, which is still not much. The track plan for my shunting layout has changed a lot since the Thomas video, with it now being even smaller than before, which, hey, Percy is the perfect kind of spoil engine for a small layout like this. Oh look, it's Percy's good friend Toby with Henrietta and Elsie too. You can't forget the old girls. They're coming along nicely, already over halfway through the projects. Hopefully the next video about them won't take as long as what Percy did. Their models certainly haven't needed nearly as much reworking as Percy did, so that's something. But until then, I'll see you down the hill and round the bend. Goodbye.